Alright guys, so I am super excited to do this review because it took me about a year to find this, okay? Now what's weird is that when you're into like craft beer, you know, obviously if you just like drinking beer or whatever, you've got Bud or Miller or Coors, and you go down to whatever liquor store and they always have it. They have it like the cases and thousands of bottles and thousands of cans. But when you're into the craft brew scene, there's always a goal to try different things, and some things are easier to find locally than others. What I can find here that I get sick of and don't care about, someone on the West Coast really wants and never had, and vice versa. This is something that I only recently saw, and I ended up picking it up. When I saw it, I think I made a girly noise or something because I was super excited. I found this at a Weiss supermarket in New York. It was just over the border, so they sold alcohol at their grocery store. Pennsylvania, we don't do that. Anyway, this is Guinness Foreign Extra Stout. Now, I've had all the varieties of Guinness that is offered up until this point, except for I think one of their Discovery series I didn't try yet. But I like Guinness on draft, okay? Especially if it's poured properly. It's very good. It's an interesting beer. It's kind of like there's nothing really comparable to Guinness, in my opinion. You know, I've had stouts that are a lot better than Guinness, but it has its own allure. It's extremely watery, and it's weird because when you first start getting into beer, at least for me, when I first started getting into beer, I had a Guinness at a bar, and I'm like, wow, this is what beer is supposed to taste like. This actually has flavor. And then, of course, I had some other stouts and stuff, and I went, wow, Guinness is almost there to a really good beer, but it has no mouthfeel. But anyway, I happen to prefer the dark beers, and it's super exciting to be able to try this. So I've had Guinness. I've had it, nitro in the can. I've had it in the bottle. I've had it on draft. I've had their regular extra stout, which is very good. It's the tan and black label. Actually, what I prefer most of the time over regular Guinness. Instead of Guinness Draft, I would prefer the Guinness Extra Stout. But the Foreign Extra Stout is a little bit different. And this one's higher in ABV. I think it's 7.5% ABV. I don't know if it's marked on the bottle. But, yeah, it is actually marked on the bottle. 7.5... I didn't even open it yet. 7.5% ABV. The only Guinness beers that are higher in ABV are some of the extra stouts that, like, I think Nigeria's version of extra stout is like 8% or something crazy. Different parts of the world, there's slightly different, variables in the different beers. But anyway, came in a 4-pack, and let's just open the thing and get started because I'm excited to give this a go here. It's got that same familiar Guinness smell, only it smells more burnt than normal, if that makes sense. So, of course, very dark. Shit. Poured it too damn fast. It's very dark. It's actually not black. Most people think that. I mean, it looks pretty friggin' black. But as you're pouring it, you can see that it's just a dark brown. And it's got a very nice head on here, but that's because I poured it too damn fast. Nice, like, kind of almond color. Yeah, it's got just, I mean, if you're used to Guinness, you know the smell. This one particularly just smells like a burnt version. It literally smells like just I don't know, slightly burnt, like burnt sugars. But anyway, I'm going to dive right into here because I already got a sip of that head on accident. Oh man, that is good. This has it has a creamier, slightly thicker mouthfeel than all the other Guinnesses. So right off the bat, I like that. The one thing I don't particularly like about Guinness in general is that it's so watery. For such a dark, you know, wonderful beer, it's so watered down. At least it feels watered down, you know? Doesn't have any kind of mouth presence. I like beer that's, especially when I'm drinking a dark beer. You know, if I want something like a lager or a pilsner, that's totally different. But if I want something to sip on and just enjoy, I want like a different experience from it. You know, I want thick, creamy, rich. You know, this offers that more so than standard draft, Guinness Draft and Guinness Extra Stout. So if you're a fan of Extra Stout, you will love Foreign Extra. It offers all the flavors you used to in an Extra Stout. It's bolder, it's darker, it's a little more bitter, but it has a much better mouthfeel. Now with this one, there's a very, very slight alcohol presence. It's pretty well hidden though. You know, 7.5, it's starting to get up there. It's not too much where it's hard to hide. It's pretty consistent and pretty smooth. It's barely noticeable, but just at the very back, you know, when you swallow, you feel that little bit of a burn, or at least a warmth, rather. But, yeah, that is really good stuff. Just malts. Really, really dark malts. Very, very heavily roasted. No smokiness, really, just strong, heavy roasted malts, and not quite a dark chocolate to me. A lot of people say that. I never pick that up. I get just malts and kind of a green flavor in all Guinness, to be honest. I never get a chocolate flavor. Really, really good though. So if you're a fan of stouts in general, highly, highly recommend picking this up. If you've never had a stout, like, you know, any representation of it, if you've never had stouts in general, this one I think is a little too much for like a starter stout. I would go with maybe just the you know, Guinness Extra Stout as like a starting base, and then maybe work your way to this. But I'm a fan. I'm a fan. For me, it has extra allure because I've been looking for it so much. So if that makes any sense, I mean, the flavor is very good. It's not the best stout I've ever had. I can probably name 10 other stouts that I prefer over this. But as far as what Guinness has to offer, right here, this is the best of what Guinness has to offer, and I would love to get this on tap. But there is no bar anywhere for 100 miles around me that has Foreign Extra on tap. But anyway, yeah, I would give this one a big thumbs up. I'm definitely a fan. If I saw it again, I would pick it up again, just to experience again. But it's not something I would get all the time, simply because of the fact, well, there's two reasons for that. Number one, I love trying new beer. Almost every single time I drink beer, I have something different. That's the whole purpose of me drinking beer, is for me to experience and have a journey of all these different styles and expressions. And it's what's so amazing about beer is, opposed to, say, wine or spirits. Like, there's 1,001 different types of whiskeys, but they all have a whiskey flavor, you know? When you get into some of the single malt scotches, there's more of a diverse flavor profile in there. But at the end of the day, they're all whiskey. Where when you're talking about craft beer, there's so many ranges of different flavors and experiences, you know? If you've only had some of the major manufacturers, you know, the macro brewers like, you know, Bud, Coors, you know, Miller, I'll even throw Heineken in there. If those are the only types of beers you've experienced before, you have not experienced what beer has to offer. There's just so many different styles from all around the world, and flavor profiles from fruity, you know, to dark chocolate, to banana. You know, there's crazy beers out there. There's, of course, wheat beers, and, you know, light ones, dark ones, everything in between. It's just really interesting, and that's why I like this hobby so much. But, yeah, although it's not my favorite stout, this is definitely my favorite beer that Guinness puts out. My new favorite. Guinness Foreign Extra. It's very good stuff. If you happen to see it, and you're a Guinness fan, it's definitely worth trying. If you're a huge stout fan in general, I mean, of course I want to say, yeah, go ahead and try it anyway, but you probably won't find this to be all that special, only because it's very one-dimensional. Although it's good, it's not complex. And I know a lot of people in the craft beer world, they're looking for complexity, they're looking for a lot of dimension and, you know, layers of flavors and all that stuff. This is very one-dimensional. It's a little flat in that sense, but it's a good, strong stout. So that's it. Cheers to you. If you guys are enjoying a beer right now, I hope you're not going to get in a car and go driving anywhere. You know, occasionally I'll say this in a beer review, but I always mean it. Don't mean to be repetitious, but you know, safety first. It's not just your life in your hands. When you get behind the wheel and you're intoxicated, you're endangering everyone around you, including the nice, innocent people just going for a ride, trying to get home from work, you know, taking their kids to soccer practice, whatever it may be. Just, you know, think twice before you get behind the wheel of a car, you know, while drunk. Even if you don't think you're drunk. If you have a couple, you might just want to, you know, call it a day. So, anyway, you don't need to hear me preach, but I feel the need to say it anyway, because every single time I enjoy a beer, it's something I always think about. There's lots of people who unfortunately lose their life to that kind of stuff. Something just happened recently, you know, locally to me, and it's just a horrific story. It's very sad, you know. But anyway, not trying to make it a sad video. It's a very positive, fun video. Yay for me, I finally found 4 and extra. So, very happy about that. Now I can move on to my, you know, 1,000 other beers that I wanted to try. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the beer review. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend, and I will see you soon. Take care.